A lot of us, especially when we're just getting started, feel like we need to be totally different than everybody else. We need to be revolutionary. In other words, we need to reinvent the wheel. Well, guess what? You don't need to reinvent the wheel. In fact, you probably ought to do exactly the opposite in a number of key areas. Let's talk about what those areas are. So recognize that somebody else has already figured out most of the key things that we struggle with when we're just getting started in business. And so what we ought to do is not try to go come up with a different way, just model what they are doing because they've already got it figured out. One of the key things to recognize is your audience is already being attracted by other people. So how about if we just do what those other people are doing so that we can attract them to be our audience too, making things a lot easier. So let me give you a couple of ideas of places where it's probably not a good idea to try to reinvent the wheel. So when you want to do a product launch, just model Jeff Walker. Don't go try to figure out how to do it differently. Just follow him. It works. If you want to create a YouTube channel, just go identify the top channels in your niche and model what they are doing. The kinds of thumbnails they're using, the titles, the topics, all those kinds of things. If you want to get opt-ins, hey, go create similar incentives to the leaders in your industry and create landing pages that look an awful lot like theirs. I'm not saying copy. We'll talk about that in just a moment. In fact, here it is. Don't copy people, model them. So if you are a photographer and you see a beautiful picture of a tree with the sunset and a lake and the sunset is shining on the lake, don't go to try to recreate that exact picture. Take that concept, tree, lake, sunset on the lake, and do your own version of it. You know that works. They made it work. Now use your creativity to turn it into your own. So in other words, what I'm saying is instead of copying, put your own spin on it. In many cases, it's your own perspective. And this is where the real magic comes for most of us who teach and train and coach and consult with people. Oftentimes, we're doing similar projects to what everyone else is doing, but we're putting our own spin, our own angle, our own perspective on things. And that's what makes it magical. That's what makes it ours. And that's what brings the branding and the differentiation into the equation. So put your own spin on it, but don't try to be radically different. There is a time for that. But initially, when you're just getting started, that's a recipe for frustration and frankly, for failure when you're just getting started. Hey, let's just keep your life simple. Instead of trying to get all fancy and everything, later on, when you're established and you got a following, that's when you start inventing. That's when you start doing things that nobody else in the audience is doing. Now, I realize that there are some people who are just going, I disagree. And I totally understand. Put that in the comments. I'd love to hear your discussion. If you're going to come out with a new SaaS product and you want to do something no one else has ever done, great. But model what everyone else is doing in the marketing and the delivery of that product. So the product idea can be unique, but you don't reinvent the wheel of how you sell it and how you deliver it and how you price it and everything else like that. Does that make sense? So you got your piece, which has your perspective, your own take. That's the creative part. And then just follow the model that everybody else is using because that's what's probably most likely going to succeed for you. What's your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comments. This is Don Crowther saying, just go do this stuff.